It's July 6, Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation. My name is Vasyl Samakhvalov, and we start our briefing. And our guest today is Natalya Gumenyuk, head of the United Coordinating Press Center of Security and Defense Forces of the South of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Miss Natalya. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Miss Natalya, you've told a lot today about the latest attack, the caliber missiles that targeted Lviv. This is why I'm not going to ask you about the news. What I'm going to ask is how the strategy of the Russian Black Sea Fleet has changed in the region. Well, globally, there was no change of strategy. They're just picking up the right tactics. They're trying to use their ammunition in the most efficient way, so they accumulated a number of calibers that they have used. It's a high precision weapon, and it's most likely used during the periods when they need to damage some critical infrastructure facilities of ours, some logistics centers, something that the enemy sees as the mandatory target to be damaged. But another remark is when the battle work is on, we have to take into account that the consequences can be quite damaging, and downing of the missile is a battle action again. And if they're going on above the residential areas, it may result in damage of any scale, so people have to use shelters. Thank you very much. We track the whole of the information space, and we cannot help but seeing some statements by the Russian correspondents, military correspondents, including some panicking statements around the Antoniv Bridge. The Russians complain that they are being targeted a lot by the Ukrainians. We're not going to ask you what can and cannot be said, but generally, to what extent have Russians managed to get back to the positions that were washed away as a result of the detonation of Kakhovka Dam? I want to remind you that the high water changed the forward edge of the battle area, moving Russians from 5 to 10 kilometers in the depth, so returning to their positions was quite important to them to get back to terrorizing the west bank of Dnipro, where the water subsided. They can come back. They start doing that, so they advance a couple of kilometers ahead. They try to establish new positions because those are already unfit for use, including the positions in the apartment blocks where they locate the mortar teams on the upper levels, and they continue their practice of terrorizing the peaceful population. For example, in the left bank, since it's lower in altitude than the right bank, and the condition there is substantially worse, the catastrophe, we can say, is still on there. The catastrophe set up by the enemy, by the way. So we know that they keep gradually coming back, and the intensity of the shellings tells us about that. They try to fulfill like 50 shellings during the daytime plus 40 during nighttime. This is the same intensity that they used before the catastrophe. Let's listen to the questions from the floor, if we have any. Ukrinform, Natalya Molchanova. So can you please tell us what is the situation with the missile carriers in the Black Sea? What is the number of the ships that the enemy still retains in the Black Sea? The group of the ships deployed in the Black Sea is up to 10, but the number of missile carriers is less now. During this night, the number of their missile carriers was 6, which launched 36, which were capable of launching 36 missiles. 10 of them were launched, so now there are 2 missile carriers, surface missile carriers, plus 2 submarine missile carriers still on duty in the Black Sea with a total capability of up to 20 missiles. Thank you very much. You reiterated that there is a mine hazard existing due to the detonation of the Kakhovka Dam. Do we know any news about the mines being washed ashore of other countries, and what is the situation in our country with that? Well, honestly, we did not document any information about the mines being carried ashore of the other countries, but talking about the shores of Mykolaiv and Odessa region, we detected about 10 such mines. Not all of them were detonated in a controlled manner. Some of them detonated in an uncontrolled way, and I want to remind you that the Russians also mined the sea in the Black Sea region during the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Now we also document some traveling islands of garbage that may contain such unpleasant and hazardous surprises. Also, some mines could drown and they will be washed out from the depth with the powerful storms that erupt in the Black Sea. Sometimes the weather is such that the sea is stormy at least once per week, and it means that there is still hazard in the shore area. My other question is regarding the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It's a hot topic lately, and there was information that the satellite images, using the satellite images, there were some additional objects identified on the roofs of the power blocks, and the head of the main directorate of intelligence said that the passions subside in the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So can you please tell us to what extent are military deployed in the south ready to any developments of the situation? Well, given the fact that the enemy can continue blackmailing the security and defense forces in a number of ways, we may say that any suspicion of hazard is subject to disclosure, so people can take it into account in terms of protecting their life and health. The fact that the passions already subside around the Zaporizhzhia NPP is a result of the powerful work of our defense forces, of our intelligence, and our international partners who exercise the pressure on the terrorist state. We hope that the reason prevails, just like Ukraine will. I want to ask for a couple of details. The Kakhovka HPP was something that we could learn some lessons from, either good or bad. To what extent are the protocols developed in the military, in our troops, should the Russians resort to such act of terrorism? To what extent is every single soldier briefed on what they need to do in case of such emergency? Well, the troops are ready. They were ready to developments of the situation with the Kakhovka Dam, and due to that we did not change our positions, we did not change the plans of our battle work, that we even continued after the detonation of the Kakhovka Dam, that Russians detonated with the desire to suspend our offensive. And in the same way, regarding the man-made disasters and nuclear safety, you know, there were talks about the Crimean Titan industrial facilities, so our troops are briefed and we won't change our plans of the battle work. Can you please introduce yourself? Al Jazeera English. Is there a Chechen special forces in Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and what is their role in torturing the personnel and the civilians? Thank you for this question, but the internal procedures in the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is not my competence, and the speaker of the operational command will give you more detail about that. If we have no more questions on the floor, we want to thank Ms. Natalya for the comprehensive information. Joining us was Natalya Gumenyuk, the head of the United Coordinating Press Center of the Security and Defense Forces of the South, and we will see you at 2 o'clock. We will talk about the healthcare providers in the field of psychology and psychiatric aid, the dashboard for the doctors that will be necessary for the whole of our country. See you shortly.